Mr. Gentile, will you please read below the line we had just talked about, which is halfway between the page where it appears to start with Johnson was able to read all of that?
Johnson was able to consult in 221, 222 if he got prior approval.
Okay.
That's what it says.
So that's referring to the fact that Johnson was specifically prohibited from doing any outside consulting in Basin 222 based on his employment with the waters. He wasn't allowed to do that, right?
I don't know that. That's what these notes indicate. He was able to do it with consent. He had to get prior approval. I don't know. I've never seen the contract between Mr. Johnson and, what would that be, Virgin Valley Water District?
Yeah.
I've never seen the contract, so I don't know.
But you are aware that there is a contract that specifically prohibited Mr. Johnson from doing that in Basin 222, right?
I'm not, sir. I am aware that somebody talked about it on June the 21st of 2011.
And that would have been George Benish, right?
Most likely.
Okay. And you're also aware that Basin 222 is the Virgin Valley Water District's basin, correct?
That's what the maps were about. What was 221 and what was 222.
Okay. And you're also aware that specifically the fact that Johnson was prohibited from doing any consulting, that's both an allegation in the criminal action and the civil action, correct?
That's probably accurate.
Okay. Will you read the next section down below the section you just read? This would be the section below the last line on the page.
It says SNWA docs regarding the swaps, and then John Ensminger, Deputy Director, SNWA.
Okay. The swaps, do you understand that to be the trade of water between SNWA and
I'm
Virgin
sure
Valley
that's
Water?
what I meant.
Okay. That's the 2008 transaction,
Yeah,
right?
so apparently at that time, in fact I'm certain of it, we did not have any documents in our possession at that time relating to the actual contract between the Southern Nevada Water Authority and the Virgin Valley Water District.
And that's why George Benish was sending you those documents on June 23rd, correct?
Could be.
Will you turn to the next page?
I am.
Thank you. It says at the top, Woodside due dil is how I read that.
Woodside due diligence.
Okay.
Pleasant Valley Investments, Southern Nevada Water Authority, Virgin Valley Water District, swap of RB, sold to SNWA by Linetti, plus full rights to all apps for groundwater in 222.
Okay. You understand the Virgin Valley Water District controls many of the applications for groundwater in Basin 222?
Actually, I don't understand that.
Okay. Mr. Gentile, you indicated that the only thing you could recall discussing about Virgin Valley Water District was basically what Virgin Valley Water District was.
Right.
But having gone through your notes, it appears that you discussed with Mr. Benish a whole range of issues, from his involvement as general counsel to the structure of how the board was set up, Michael Johnson and Mike Winter's roles, whether Virgin Valley Waters had appropriated groundwater rights or not, talking about a report that Terry Katzer was involved in, Basin 222, and if approval had been obtained by Johnson to do consulting outside of his contract, and the swap of water between SNWA and Virgin Valley Water District, to name a few of those. It
To
appears
me,
you
it
guys
still fits under the umbrella of what is the structure of Virgin Valley Water District. Obviously, as it relates to what I'm there for.
which was to get as much information as you could from George Benish so you could represent your client, correct?
It was to get an education from George Benish as to water rights law, the mechanics of it, not just the law, but also the mechanics, and this is the mechanics.
Can you show me something in there that refers?
This, so that the record's clear, I'm referring to whatever exhibit number this is that I have a copy of.
Double R.
Will you please show me an exhibit R where it talks about water rights law generally apart from Virgin Virgin Valley Water District?
Sir, these are my notes. You got 3 pages of notes, 4, in a 3-hour conversation. Everything that was said, I'm not a scrivener, all right? There are some things that I can actually remember without making a note of. And so it probably doesn't say that. And I'm not gonna look at it to see if it does. I've just read everything and told you what it is that, I mean, unless the court tells me I have to.
No, I mean, the way I look at it, you're a scribbler, not a.
Yeah, I am a scribbler. The nuns would be very unhappy that I never learned Palmer penmanship.
Yeah.
Despite being.
So-
whacked with a ruler.
So your testimony is that your memory is that you guys discussed water rights generally, although you would agree with me that Virgin Valley Water District was really the primary subject of these notes.
Look, I wasn't interested just in learning about the theory of water rights. All right, I also had to learn about how they're distributed. And I'm sure that there are many other water authorities in the state of Nevada other than the Southern Nevada Water Authority and Virgin Valley Water Rights. So you start off at the general and you try to move down so that you can have some kind of an idea of the structure. That's what I did. All right, but we did not get into anything in the nature of a privileged communication or any discussions that Mr. Benish had with anybody. And candidly, at that point, it really wasn't because I was concerned of a conflict. I'm glad that we did it the way we did it, all right, because I wasn't concerned about a conflict at that time. Within the next day or two, it became a concern because he might need to be a witness, and if he was a witness, he couldn't be my expert.
And if he was a witness, you should have just deposed him, right?
No, I can interview any witness.
You didn't feel you should in any way contact me or Virgin Valley Water District to inform us you were talking with...
Well, after you sat down and talked to Mr. Linetti in his living room without counsel for a few hours, I figured it must be okay, so I did it.
You understand Mr. Linetti's not an attorney, but Mr. Benish is.
But he's still a witness. Whether he's an attorney or whether he's any other kind of an expert, I have a right to interview my expert before I hire him.
And you didn't think you had any... you didn't think that you shouldn't inform Virgin Valley Water District or its counsel before you did that?
Absolutely not. There was no need to. He was no longer, first of all, he never, from my understanding, was an employee. All right, but to the extent that he was an outside counsel and acted as general counsel, that had ended a year and a half earlier. And it was really on him to do whatever it was that he needed to do. When I first met with George Benish, I had no idea of his background, other than I think I got a resume from him.
Well, you indicated in your declaration that you knew he had knowledge of the Virgin Valley Water District, specifically its leasing issues, as well as he was knowledgeable about Virgin River Basin water rights, correct?
I said that in my affidavit.
Yeah. In fact, you didn't take any effort to depose George Benish until after we filed this motion to disqualify.
As I said to you, sir, it's been at least 6-7 months since I've had an active oar in the water in terms of the litigation.
And you never informed Virgin Valley Water District or its counsel that you guys were having extensive discussions with George Benish, did you?
I don't know who you guys is. Do you want to clarify that?
Gordon Silver.
I can't tell you what my partners do and what my associates do when I'm not with them and not in my direction.
But you never disclosed that.
Objection to the form of the question and the use of the word extended communications. That's counsel's argument is. He had one discussion.
I met George Benish, I'm sorry, he has to rule on the
Yeah.
objection.
I'll allow the question.
Go ahead. I met George Benish once.
But had numerous telephone discussions with him.
A few, not numerous, a few. All right, none of which lasted very long.